So the 5th and potential final season of hit animated show Harley Quinn was actually really, really good, and I love the fact that it was set in shiny, futuristic Metropolis as they have left Gotham City behind, which made a really nice and refreshing change, and it was also very Ivy driven, which I think also worked to its favour. But she of course didn't replace Harley Quinn, because Harley Quinn really is front and centre. Now it is a little bit strange as season 4's ending was so good in terms of setting up the Gotham City sirens and showing a bit of a deranged Nightwing being resurrected by the Lazarus Pit, but they never really followed up on those two storylines, which is why I feel like with season 5 they were very careful to not necessarily set up things that they aren't necessarily going to be continuing. And so I feel like this is why there's a little bit of a discrepancy between the producers and the showrunners being really confident that they might get a 6th season versus the audience seeing this finale as being more of a series finale, because they gave Harley and Ivy a bit of a happily ever after ending and didn't necessarily leave anything on a cliffhanger basis. But all of that being said, like I was saying right in the beginning, I do actually think that season 5 was pretty solid. For example, Ivy's past lover / college professor Jason being jealous of her creating a human plant being with Frank and just wanting to take all of the credit for this, and when Ivy wasn't comfortable with him doing this, he left her for dead but was also inadvertently turning her into Poison Ivy. I don't think the following episode in terms of him turning into Floronic Man was as epic though, as I feel like the Jason storyline really did hit deep. Similarly, Clayface doing Pearl Harbor, taking over Perry White's position as editor-in-chief, creating the Brainiac musical and hiring Bane to be the writer. I don't think any of those storylines unfortunately were that funny. But what definitely did work was this universe's Brainiac origin storyline. It was so awesome and so emotionally driven. You're really empathetic with this version of Brainiac. And he wasn't necessarily the cold, calculating, maniacally evil character that we have seen in a number of different DC productions. So not only was it refreshingly different, I feel like it actually worked, unlike all of the Jason Floronic Man storylines. Another awesome episode is when Bruce Wayne / Alfred invite Harley Quinn and Ivy to his place, and then it almost is going to be a murder mystery in terms of which one of these characters actually killed off Alfred Pennyworth. I wish that that mystery lasted a little bit longer instead of him turning into the macaroni. I also wish that they did so much more with Red X. I love how he suddenly entered into this storyline wanting to take revenge on Harley Quinn, but that storyline was so quickly finished when Bruce Wayne is just declaring his love for Dick Grayson. And of course, all of the Joker and Bruce Wayne sequences were absolutely hilarious. So I feel like this episode easily could have been an hour-long one, and it would have just been so rewarding to watch because I just feel like they condensed and rushed potentially really good storylines. It then all becomes the Lena Luthor show, and I think this was a fine decision actually, as she was a very formidable villain. Firstly, speaking of murder mysteries, she is the one that kills off Frank and then frames Brainiac to basically get Ivy and Harley Quinn to kill him off. But they don't do this, they shrink him instead, and instead of that, Lena then takes over his position. I love that we got psychiatrist Harleen Quinzel's personality here, when she was trying to be really clever in terms of using Lex Luthor to try to stop Lena Luthor, and I think it was also really clever how they went back to childhood, and Lena Luthor just wants to impress Lex and take over everything that she couldn't take over before. But of course, you can never trust Lex Luthor, and he unexpectedly teams up with Lena. I feel like they could have done a little bit more with that. I mean, of course, they took over Metropolis, they almost were going to take over the universe together, but I feel like with that rivalry, they could have explored a little bit more. And inevitably, one villain will always want to be on top, and I feel like with these two brothers and sisters, neither of them will be happy to be on an equal level playing field, which is a little bit of a shame, because if they were, they could have taken over the universe, which is quite startling, and I feel like a really interesting bit of social commentary, because villains are so clever, and if they didn't have this rivalry, they could potentially take over everything. Having Harley Quinn's mum in there was pretty funny for the first 10 minutes, but I feel like it dragged on, and this being the character that turns Brainiac on the good side, I thought was a little bit strange as well. And I feel like Harley and Ivy did everything that they could have to save the day, but I feel like it was the right decision to ultimately have Superman being the one that really does save the day. And I love how this went full 360 back to the first episode where Harley Quinn was basically telling Superman to go on vacation. So I feel like the ending does work really, really well as a bit of a series conclusion, and definitely in my opinion does end the series on a high, as I loved seeing Harley Quinn and Ivy and all of these other characters moving over to Metropolis. And in those final couple of moments, they have returned back back to Gotham City. So like I said, I think it's the perfect way to conclude it. And this season had some awesome moments. I love that Ivy and Harley were pretty much very solid across this season. There were some moments, obviously, where their relationship was tested. For example, Frankette now being under Lena's control. And Ivy understandably putting all of the blame of that onto Harley Quinn and then feeling regretful for doing so. And having the main players in this season as well, for example, Batman, Bruce Wayne, Joker. It's a shame that Superman and Brainiac didn't share any scenes or sequences together. I feel like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity, as well as not really doing anything with Catwoman, the Gotham City Sirens in general, Nightwing, and never really giving one of my favorite villains, the Riddler, a proper storyline. But regardless, overall, I have to say, I feel like season 5 is a really solid season and a really great way to potentially end the Harley Quinn animated TV series, and I think it's a lot stronger actually than season 4 and season 3. And so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give Harley Quinn season 5 a solid 7 out of 10. Now I'd love to hear from you. What did you think of Harley Quinn season 5? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.